Thanks so much for joining us, Tony. Welcome. Much appreciated for joining us. Um, we've worked together for a little while now, so I've been really keen to get you onto the podcast. So, thanks again for joining us. Maybe you could get you to start by just introducing yourself and what it is that you do.
Fantastic. Well, firstly, Jared, thank you, mate, for the opportunity. I'm very excited to be here and supporting you and the team at the local guys. So I'm a business coach. I'm based up in Brisbane. I've been doing this now for 5.5 years. So prior to that, I had a corporate career, had a whole range of senior roles, different sales roles, commercial roles in leadership, but decided a long time ago that I'd had enough of corporate and that I wanted to get into my own business. And in 2018, I was in a fortunate enough position to leave corporate and get stuck into business. So I've been doing it ever since. And I work with small to medium businesses across the country, primarily helping them, grow their sales, become better leaders, master time, and then all with a dose of mindset over the top, because we all need a little bit of mindset every now and then just to help us, keep moving forward and looking at the opportunities positively, as opposed to sometimes it can get a bit tough in business, and you look at the things that are going wrong.
Yep. Yep. Sure. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people have like a similar path to that, where they might work for corporate or work for a business for many years, and then they decide that they want to go out on their own. You did it a little bit uniquely, though. I think most people wouldn't sort of want to go off and or go off and become a business coach. What was your driver behind doing that?
So I actually never started off to be a business coach, right? Funnily enough. So if I go back to 2015, where all this started for me, so I was in a really dark space. I was overweight. I spent all my time away from my family. I didn't have the wealth that I thought, and I was away from my family because I was traveling around the country, in aeroplanes and hotel suites. Didn't have the wealth that I thought, so I was really in a dark space. And so for me, I thought, well, what am I going to do, right? Because I was on a very good salary back then. And in fact, the first thing that I did is I went and lost weight. I did a 12-week weight transformation challenge and fundamentally changed the way that I looked in 12 weeks. And I remember saying to myself at the end of that, if I can do this, then I can do anything. And so then we'd had dabbled in real estate, in property. And I thought, right, property is going to be my ticket out of corporate life. And so started off down that path. But I realized in the development space, but I realized that I liked it, but I didn't love it. But I had a lot of people coming up to me and saying, "Oh my gosh, Tony, like, how are you having success? And oh, you lost all this weight, and how did you do that?" And I just thought, well, I'm an average guy from the suburbs, But I remember sitting there having an epiphany one night, going, "Oh my gosh, maybe I'm meant to be a coach," because I'd always been a manager, and back then in a corporate setting, they don't call them coaches; they're managers, and they're different functions. But I've always been a manager of people, but never saw myself as a coach. I thought, oh, well, what's this coaching? So I just explored coaching and went off and did a coaching course, and then the rest is history. So it's interesting. I was actually having a conversation yesterday about a guy who's in a similar position to where I was. He's in a corporate role. He gets paid well, but he's feeling unfulfilled. And I said, you've just got to try something, because the thing that you try may not necessarily be the thing that you end up doing, but at least if you try it, and then you can either rule it in or rule it out. And I say it's a bit like a buffet. You go to a buffet and there's a series of different dishes, and sometimes you will try some dishes and they'll be wonderful and you'll come back for more, and there'll be others that you try and it's like, oh yuck, I don't want to go back for any more of that. And it's a little bit like that from a business point of view. So, well, what am I going to do? And a lot of people will try and solve it in their head, whereas for me it's about just try some stuff and you'll start to figure out, yeah, I like that, or no, I don't like that, and you'll start to navigate your way towards what it is that you want to do.
Think there's a saying that I love, and it's fail quickly and fail often, and I think there's really something to that.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what it's about. It's about the courage to make mistakes, Jared. The reality is that a lot of people don't have the courage to make mistakes. They want everything to be lined up perfectly, and I'm not going to take that first step until everything's lined up perfectly. And
Mm,
you and I have talked about
just
this
never
many
happens.
times. It's like, yeah, correct. It's like there is not a straight line in business from point A to point B. It's up, down, back. It's all over the place. And I mean, but it's the courage to have a go, It's the courage to learn. It's what growth's all about, and then you figure out along the way, well, it's like, hang on a second, I tried that thing. Either A, we'll adapt it and do it better next time, or B, actually, that was the wrong thing, and let's go and do something different. Either way, we're constantly trying, and as long as we're moving towards where we want to get to, then it's okay to make mistakes, because mistakes equals learning and growth.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I think it's kind of like having kids. I remember the advice my brother gave me once in regards to he kept on saying, because we had kids later in life, and I've got my third child due 2 days ago. So I'm waiting for the phone to ring now, actually,
Yeah,
to
right.
know that I got to rush off to the hospital. But he sort of said to me, "There's never the right time. There's always something going on in life, and it's never the right time, and you've just got to make it happen, because if you don't, it's just time gets past."
Well, and it's the R word, it's regret, And what I left out, way back about my own journey is that whilst it was the weight loss that got me going physically, but I actually read a book, and it was Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and chapter 2 is around start with the end in mind. And when I first read it, this was in the January of 15. When I first read it, he talks about what people will say about you at your eulogy. And I remember reading it initially and not wanting to deal with my own mortality. And so I put the book down and I sort of put it back on the bookshelf and, left it there for a few weeks and kept walking past the bookshelf. And then for whatever reason, in mid-January, I picked it back up again and I reread that chapter and I really understood what he was saying. And effectively, it's you get one shot at this. What do you want people to say about you, when you pass? And it's like, well, at the time, like I said, I was overweight, I was unhappy, I was unfulfilled, I didn't have the wealth that I wanted, away from my family, blah, 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 And so in the instance we're talking about here, it's like, well, do you want to be on your last breath and say, well, gosh, if only I had have done that thing back in 2023. I wish that I had the courage to take that step, but I never did. And unfortunately, Jared, there's a lot of people that will be like that, and they won't have taken that step, and it's not easy, but one of the great things about being part of a franchise community is it makes it easier. You've got it's a softer landing because you've got all of that support around you from a franchise point of view. I did it on my own. I didn't have a franchise network, or like I just got in and did it all myself, and made an enormous amount of mistakes and still do today. But I've got that courage to keep moving forward and just have a go.
Yep, yep. Do you think that there's a correlation between going through the journey of weight loss and business ownership? Because I've also, I lost 42 kilos in a year, and it's a lot of stripping back and a lot of looking at uh, not putting the blinders on and really looking at things in the facts of what they are, and not sticking your head in the sand and just going, okay, cool, stripping everything back and just going, all right, what's the facts here, and moving forward from there, and then being diligent along the path as well. Do you see something like that along your
Oh,
journey where there are
absolutely.
similarities?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and your effort's been amazing. I've been, privileged enough to sit in the front row, and watch you and your journey. Congratulations on your own success from a physicality point of
Thank
view.
you.
As I mentioned, for me it was a 12-week challenge. It was interesting because they gave you it was a national competition, so they gave you a food sheet and an exercise sheet for the 3 4 week blocks, so 1 to 4, 5 to 8, and then 9 to 12. And so for me, I simply had to eat what they told me to eat and exercise what they told me to exercise. And so I remember sitting there thinking to myself, well, how am I going to go and create a goal out of this? Because it's 12 weeks, it's weight transformation. So it wasn't about weight loss. It was actually a lot of, weight lifting, like, building muscle. And so I thought, hang on, well, my muscle's heavier than fat. I don't know how to, create a goal. And what I ended up deciding was that I will set a goal that I will eat what they tell me to eat and exercise what they tell me to exercise for 84 days in a row, which is the 12 weeks. And so every day I would just get my exercise sheet and I would just simply follow that process. and follow that process. And so that was one thing, right? About follow the process, and so in business, particularly in franchising, right? It's about you guys create a process. There is a process of how to go and do particular tasks, or how to go and run your business from an operational point of view, or how to go and do local area marketing. So me as a prospective franchise partner in the local guys, it's about follow that process, right? The other thing that I learned during my 12 weeks was that in weeks 1 to 4, I lost a little bit of weight, could see a little bit of change. In weeks 5 to 8, I saw a little bit more change. In weeks 9 to 12, the change was phenomenal, right? So literally I had weight just falling off me. And so what I learned out of that is around consistency and persistence. And I could have easily given up after 4 weeks, done it and gone, oh, well, I've lost a little bit of weight, but throw my hands in the air, this is too hard, right? And I can tell you that prior to that moment, there's so many times when I was that guy, right? Going, oh my gosh, throw your hands in the air. But the reality was that I stuck with it. And so, the lesson then back to business, which was your question, is through consistency and persistence. And it's that consistency and persistence that will lead you to have phenomenal success, because most people, Jared, unfortunately, will throw their hands in the air and say, this is all too hard. And in fact, in Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, he talks about a concept called 3 feet from gold. And I'm not sure if you've heard of that concept.
I have, yeah.
Yeah. And for the viewers, for the listeners.
Sorry, yeah, please.
Yeah, for the viewers and listeners, 3 feet from gold is essentially that most people will finish 3 feet from their gold. So if you imagine yourself, and again, this book's about 90 years old. So if you imagine yourself sort of 90 years ago, and you're a miner, you've got your hard hat on, and you're sort of digging for gold, and you've got your pick, and you dig, and you get exhausted. You go, oh my gosh, there's no gold here. But the reality is that 3 feet away from where you finish is the gold, whatever your gold is the gold that you were searching for. Now, here's the kicker. If you knew that the gold was there, then you would be on your knees and your hands, and you would just do whatever you could to get your gold, because you've got certainty that the gold's there. But there's no certainty, right? There's no certainty in business. And so then there's an element of, we talked about it, following the process, trust, faith, belief. These are the words that start to come up, because you've got to just keep going with that process and believe that I'm on the right path. And but unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that, and they sadly will get to the end of their days, and they will have been 3 feet from gold. And if only they had that courage to just go that little bit further, then perhaps their circumstances may have been very different.
I had someone ask me the other day what I thought was the most important thing to success in a business or a business owner. And I think weighing everything up over however many years we've been in business now, I think if I had one word to describe the most important thing, it would be grit. And it's exactly what you're talking about. It's that grit that keeps you rocking up day after day. It tends to be the deciding factor, and it's one of the hardest things to achieve as well, because you get mind games and your logic kicks in, and you do a bunch of, you kind of on this roller coaster, and it can, one day you're up, the next day you're down, and it can very easily, that grit. How do you teach grit? How do you without going through the hard yards for the last 2 decades? How do you install that as a coach?
Yeah, so one of the things is to be very goal-oriented. You've got to have something that's in front of you that you're working towards, and also about managing expectations. So that is that, like you talked about, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. If you think it's all going to be smooth sailing, rainbows and butterflies, then perhaps go and do something different, because it's not going to be easy. But it comes down to the goal orientation, the goal achievement, and how committed you are to that goal. Because I meet a lot of people who are interested in goals, but interest in a goal and commitment in the goal is two different things. So an interest in a goal is a bit like a fantasy. Oh, I'd love to get into small business. I'd love to have my own business. I'd love to be my own boss, all those types of things. And I get it, and I used to hear that a lot, in my corporate setting. Oh gosh, I'm fed up with this place, and I'd love to be, out there doing my own thing, which is great. but that's an interest, that's a fantasy. Whereas the commitment is actually, you know what, I'm going to put my left foot in front of my right, and I'm going to have a go. But I do that because the goal means so much to me. And so that's the key thing. And so, whenever you want to go and change in business, in life, the first thing you want to do is understand the why do you want to do it? So what's your purpose? What's your reason? It's got to be a deep reason. It's got to be something that's relating to you. It's internal to you, because on those dark days when you wake up and you'd rather be 1,001 other places than, going to your business or battling away with whatever you're battling away with, you've got to have a deeper reason. And it's like that reason is in front of you, and it's like a gravitational pull. And so a lot of people will push towards change. And what I mean by that is they're not fully committed to it. They're sort of not really serious about it. And they'll push, 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 push. And eventually when you push, you run out of steam. Whereas when you have something that's in front of you that the reason is so big and it feels like it's just drawing you towards it, then it's a lot easier. It's not easy, but it's a lot easier in that sense. So having a reason why, and then being very clear, like vividly clear on what is the thing that we're going for, and then constantly reminding yourself of that. Like, a lot of people will go, well, I set a goal and I set a goal on the 1st of January, right? And it's like, well, what tends to happen, I call it the January 1st effect, is that, most of us will go and have a few beers or whatever on the 31st, and then we'll wake up and we'll say, right, I'm going to climb mountains and lose weight and start a business and all these things. And, the reality is by the third week of January, then we've all, we've gone into a heaps. The reality is that about 85-90% of New Year's resolutions, they're all done by the third week of January. So that's interest. That's fantasy, right? Whereas it's about really deeply spending the time understanding, my commitment towards doing this thing, and as I said, managing your own expectations.
You work with a wide range of different clients, and you've got clients that are traditional business owners, independents, and then you've got other clients in the franchising side.
Yep.
What's your take on the difference of either side?
Sure. Well, I mean, if I talk about the franchising side, I've got a lot of the hard work's been done for me. And I think it's an amazing thing. If I look back at my time, as I said, there are franchise coaching organisations out there. I chose not to go down that path. I chose to go down my own path. Now, I've got no doubt that had I gone down a franchising path, then yes, there may have been some outlay of investment to do that, but then my time would have been compressed significantly. All of the things that I had to do would have been laid out for me. I would have had the support of a network around me. So there's so many pros to the franchising side of things. Jared, I know that you've got a franchise network, but from a when, at a high level, from a business point of view, there are two key things. There is demand and there is supply. And so when people start out in their business, one of the big things that they worry about is demand. Will I have enough work coming in? Well, the great thing about franchise organisations, and specifically the local guys, is you guys generate marketing. You guys generate the leads for the franchisee. So as a franchise partner, then a lot of the heavy lifting has been done for me. From a, hey, what do I do? What do I do on day one or day two or week one or week two? Well, you guys have created the operations manuals and the procedures around, here's all the things that you need to be doing. On top of that, being part of a franchise community is I've got a group of people who perhaps are going through what I'm going through, perhaps have been through what I'm going through, and I can lean on them from their own experiences. So there's support, there's training, so there's a whole range of people around me. So the big thing that I would, I know I've given you a long-winded response to your question, but the difference would be time. So that is, in a franchise community, you will compress your time. And so the way that I would describe it is, yes, it costs you some money to be involved in a franchise community as an investment, but you have compressed your time, you have increased your support network around you, and you have significantly increased the probability of success. And the reality is that from a small business point of view here in Australia, there's different stats, but I think, it's something along the lines of 60-odd% of, businesses small businesses don't make it past the 2 or the 3 year mark. I can't recall exactly. From a franchising point of view, the statistics would be significantly different now because I've got the marketing being generated, the training, the support, the community. Then my likelihood of success is far greater.
I think it's 90% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years, and
Wow.
80% of franchises succeed. And that's just for the
Correct.
numbers. Yeah, yeah.
And
So
and
it's
and 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 the facts are like that. They're the facts, right? And so you can't dispute that. And that's why I love the franchise model is because I've got work now. But here's the key thing that I want to stress with all of it. At some stage, as a franchise partner, you still have to do some heavy lifting, right? So you can't leave everything up to to your franchisor. You've still got to get out there and do the thing. Whatever that thing is, it's just a matter. It's a matter of it's all laid out for. It's a bit like karaoke. So it's just you just want to follow the bouncing ball. You still got to sing the song, but you just got to follow that bouncing ball.
And I think that's one of the things that we outline to franchise candidates very early is that this is still business ownership. You're not a subcontractor. We're not just providing you with work orders and just going out and doing the work and a glorified employee. You're a small business owner. And yes, that we do put things in place to assist you in that process. Yes, we do provide leads, and yes, we do provide a bunch of different things. But at the end of the day, it is still your own business, and you are responsible for part of the growth of that business as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I'd describe it as it's your own business, but you're not on your own in business. In the sense of that you get the ability to do what you want to do in your territory within the parameters of the franchising agreement, uh, but you've also got the procedures and the support and the marketing and all the support from head office, and also the other thing too is like I said earlier, because you guys have been doing this for a while, respectfully, you guys didn't get it right from day one. And so through your own trials and tribulations and making mistakes and refining things and trying different things, you've gone through that learning process on behalf of your franchise partners. So now any new franchise partner coming in, for them, what they see is the product and the service that you sell today, but the reality is that just didn't happen overnight. It's happened based on your experiences here with the local guys, but then also like you've been in business way before the local guys as well. So you've taken all of that experience and roll that into what you're offering today.
yeah, and I think that's the thing. It's over a decade of experience that gets to where we are today. So someone that comes on today gets that over a decade of experience, which is a great thing. What are some of the challenges of franchising?
Well, some of the challenges around franchising is that some people can feel a bit restricted. So it's like, oh my gosh, I feel a bit restricted. Some people don't want that accountability to, someone else, to the franchisor. So there are a couple of the challenges that I see. But it's about recognizing that you have created the system, like we just said, based on your own trials and tribulations, and you've figured out what works, you've figured out what doesn't. You've also got to factor in a whole network of individuals. And so, a challenge for someone who is extra creative or wants to be independent, they may struggle. They may struggle in a franchise model. So, if you want to be a part of a franchise model, it's phenomenally successful, and the statistics that we just talked about, speak for themselves. But you've also got to, comply to, what works. And again, you're just not, creating things to fill space. Like you're creating things because you know it works, and you know it works because you've had plenty of mistakes and failings along the way to figure out, well, this works. So that's where it can become difficult within franchising. And the other is then the monetary side. So people will say, well, why would I invest in a franchise, I could go and do that thing myself. And the reality is that in 2023, there's an enormous amount of knowledge out there. And so, yeah, you can go and figure things out and, get into AI or get onto Google or whatever it is. You can figure it all out. But one of the reasons that you're investing money is because you're now compressing time. And I said it earlier. So that's the exchange. The exchange is I'm going to invest in a franchise, but now what I'm doing is I'm doing two things. I'm short circuiting my time for success, and I'm also increasing my probability of success. That's
Yeah.
worth something.
Who do you think makes the right fit for a franchise? What type of person?
So it's varied in the sense of that you've got to be hungry. Like you've got to be, yes, I'm part of a franchise, so I need to be compliant to the franchising parameters. But I've also got to be hungry as well. I've got to recognise that my franchisor has done the bulk of the work, but there's still this bit that I can't just sit there and hope that the money's rain down from above. That's not how it works. I've got to still get out there and take action. And it's no different in franchising than it is in any business, which is at the end of the day, I've got to take action. And I've got to take action. And even in franchising, there'll be things that I do. So, for example, if I think about, from a pest control point of view or from a cleaning point of view specifically, well, one of the great ways to generate leads will be through the property managers at real estate offices. Well, even though you can direct the franchise partners what to do, where to go, here's what you should say, here's some scripts to go and chat about, they've still got to execute it. And if I rock up and my uniform's dirty and I'm dishevelled and I don't go through, you don't follow the process, well, I'm not going to have the success. So you've still got to, put the effort in. And it's like anything in life. We talked earlier about our respective weight loss journeys. You get out of things what you put into them. 100% you get out of things what you put into them. And so when you put into, your franchise business, then you will get phenomenal rewards back.
It's a good example, actually. I know only recently we've created a pricing guide for people in the real estate industry, and we've provided training around that side of things, and some of our franchise partners have had some great success around going to real estate offices and presenting. But as you say, that they've got to be able to actually get out there and do that, though, so we can make them look like a national brand because they're part of a national brand, and we can have our team design the flyers and the brochures and everything like that, and have them on the right foot. But if they don't take that foot in the door, then there's a missed opportunity, and then you're solely relying on leads from us, which is great. And I always consider it sort of offense and defense, and you can have leads coming to you, but they're always going to go like this. So you want to have the ability, so when you're on one of those down ones, that you've got the ability to be able to go out there and you've got this tool in your tool bag that you can go out and generate leads that way or that way. So it's a great example.
Well, it's about being proactive. It's about being proactive with all of this. And there's a lot that you and the team will provide from a head office point of view. But if I'm the test and tag franchise partner or pest control or cleaning franchise partner on the ground, there is so much that I can still be doing to ensure my own success. I can't leave it all up to the head office. Yes, there's a lot that comes through from the head office and it's amazing and the quality is phenomenal, but I've still got to do some heavy lifting myself.
Yep. Absolutely. Many of our franchise partners have never owned their own businesses before. What are your sort of top tips or must-knows for them?
So firstly, so in regards to getting into owning your own business, I would say that a lot of people, when I speak to them after they've got into owning their own franchise business, is one of the comments that I get back regularly is, I should have done this years ago. which goes back to that whole, the courage, right? It's like, and we have this, the fear kicks in and we think about all the worst case scenarios, but yet when we have the courage to take that first step, it's like, oh my gosh, this is what a breath of fresh air. This is, I should have done it a long time ago. But in regards to, so let's say now I've gone and bought my own franchise. Well, for me, it's about follow the system and trust the process. And so whether it be from an operational point of view, whether it be from a local area marketing point of view, but follow the system that has been created for you and trust the process. So we just talked about real estate agents and property managers. The reality is that when you go to a property manager for the first time, they're not going to be, swinging open the doors, rolling out the red carpet and welcoming you in open arms. That's not reality. The reality is they're probably already using someone else's services, and they mightn't have a need for your services. But don't be disheartened by that, So it comes back to what we just talked about before around that, the grit and that tenacity and that perseverance to keep going. Say good day, introduce yourself to people, put a smile on your face, so do that, but then be consistent with that process. That's one thing. The other one from a business owner point of view is know your numbers, like really know your numbers. It's your business at the end of the day. And it blows my mind the number of business people when they initially start working with me and they have no clue. They have no clue over their sales, over their profitability, what's going on. As long as I've got a couple of dollars in the bank, that's as long as I can pay my bills, that's okay. It's like, my gosh, so know your numbers. It's your business. The other is then, thinking about mastering of your time. So one of the key things if I think about my own journey when I first started in business, when you start out in business, you have an enormous amount of time because you've started on a brand new territory. So you have plenty of time. So now with that time, but you don't have a lot of revenue or income coming in. So with that time, leverage that time. Leverage that time to get out into your community, to introduce yourself, to, create awareness that, I'm the new, the local guys, franchise partner in this particular territory. So, you've got this enormous amount of time, no money, so leverage your time. Then what happens is you start to get work coming in and now you get busier and busier, which is good because now you're generating revenue. Don't lose sight of the some of the key things that you need to do from a business point of view to help things still keep moving. And I just talked about know your numbers. Books is one, or the administrative side of bookkeeping. Now, there might come a time once you've started to generate some revenue where you may think about, do I outsource or delegate some of those tasks, some of those lower level, and respectfully to all the bookkeepers out there, but some of those, lower level sort of repetitive tasks, do I outsource some of those, which gives me now more time to get out there and generate more revenue? Because to me, it comes down to an hourly rate comparison. So if I'm going to go and do my test and tag or do pest control, etc., and I've got an hourly rate of X, but I've figured out that if I can outsource my book work, for example, for Y, and there's the profit there, well, then I should outsource those tasks. Because the key thing that all business owners, whether it be franchise partners or independents, what we want more of is time. And it's not necessarily time to go and have a break, although, yes, it's good to have a break every now and then and spend time with your loved ones. But it's time to go and repurpose on then driving your business, generating more business for yourself. That's the key thing that you want as a business owner is time.
Yep. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know even we've done this for many years, but every month myself and Stacey will sit down and we'll look at the previous month and have a look at our incomings and have a look at our outgoings. And it's been so successful for us that now Stacey does one day with the franchise partners on accounting and bookkeeping and all that side of things, and forecasting. And that's part of her recommendation to every franchise partner is to sit down every month and know where the money's coming in from and where it's going, and having a really good understanding of that. And that's why I think it's good in those early days to do your own bookkeeping, so you can truly see every transaction and where it's sort of gone and all the rest of it. And you have a really good handle on your business, and as you said, you've got more time at that time, so it's better to do. And then by the time you're ready to hand it over to a bookkeeper or an accountant, you've pretty much got pretty healthy habits in place by then, or you should do anyway. So then you can outsource it, and as you say, then you should be able to swap those hours out that you were doing on the bookkeeping across for revenue creating, and hopefully that hourly rate is higher than what the bookkeepers is, and then it's cash flow positive.
Absolutely. And the other thing, I can't believe I didn't mention this, Jared, is have a goal. I can't believe that I didn't say this, but anyway, have a goal. I mean, it's like, well, I got this business, I've invested into this franchise business. Actually, have a goal for yourself. What would you like to achieve in year one? What would you like to achieve in month one, etc. And not just a top line goal. What does that look like then in activity? And so one of the things that I focus heavily on is things called sales drivers. So you might have a top line revenue goal, and your revenue goal might be to get, I don't know, $10,000 a month early on. But what are the things that I then need to do to generate $10,000? And so there's a whole series of things that I can do. So I call them sales drivers. But set some goals. I'm going to go and visit X number of property managers. I'm going to do X number of flyers. I'm going to, reach out to these local businesses. I'm going to, it's a whole series of things that I can be doing. But it's about setting yourself a whole range of goals. And now I've got something in front of me that's worthy or worthwhile to bound out of bed and work towards each and every day.
Yep. Okay. Um, Again, you've worked with a lot of different franchises. What advice would you give to someone who's in the research stage of franchising? What sort of research or things would you suggest to them? If it's the brother-in-law, whoever, to you, what's the pieces of advice you'd be giving to them in that due diligence stage when they're looking at different franchises?
Yeah, 100%. So, firstly, get across on the internet. So, there's so many. You can do a little bit of cyber stalking in 2023. Get on the internet and look at reviews and all those types of things. Spend time with the head office. But I would also encourage people to spend time with the franchise partners. So start to speak to a few franchise partners and get their thoughts of what is going on from a head office perspective, and what's it really like, within the local guys. So I think that's incredibly important. But due diligence is so critical, Jared, because you're looking at investing a lot of money, and so it's a case of you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. The other would be to see if you can do a day with a franchise partner, because I think it's important to get a sense of what's a day in the life of, a test and tag franchise partner, etc. What's the day in the life of look like? Because you can sit there and watch videos and, have conversations with the team at the head office, but it's not until you get out and about, you roll your sleeves up and you go, you know what? Yeah, I think that I can do this. I think this is how I'd like to, spend my day. Conversely, if it's not for you, then my view would be I'd much rather discover that early in the process, in the sense of that, okay, you go out for a day and you go, yeah, no, it's not for me. Hey, terrific. You say, thank you, thanks for your time, and, I wish you all the best. You'd much rather discover that early as opposed to then, being 6 months in and going, oh, I think I've made the wrong decision. So I would say to spend your time doing your due diligence and getting to know some franchise partners. But then I go back to what I said earlier. There's also this balance between analysis paralysis, and that fear of actually taking that step, and no matter where you're at, you're still going to be filled with anxiety and fear, and that's natural. Like we all go through that as humans. So, don't let that be the reason that's going to stop you. But I would go back to, what are your goals? What's the thing that you want to achieve in your business life? And when you've got a goal that's bigger than your fear, then you'll go after it. And that's my story. I know it's your story as well. When you have a goal that's bigger than your fear, then you go after it. Doesn't mean that I don't experience fear or experience anxious moments. I get them all the time, but I'm also well, A, I'm trained, but B, I'm also driven enough to go, you know what, I've got to work through this, because the best things in business or in life are on the other side of that fearful moment. So do your research, spend time with franchise partners, spend time with the team at the local guys head office, do your due diligence, but then get to a point and go, you know what, I've got to take that step. I've got to take that step. And as I said, I can assure you that whilst that decision is hard, once you get over the other side, once you've made that decision, the number of franchise partners or even individual business owners who've made that step to leave the security of employment, they go, my gosh, I wish I had have done this years ago.
I think listening to your gut as well. There's really something to that. The older I get, the more I think there's something to that. If you get that gut feeling, there's a reason why it's there, whether it's positive or negative. And I think sometimes you've just got to listen to that. And I don't think, I know a lot of the times whenever I've made a bad decision in my life, and then I've looked back at it later and I've like, I've had that bad feeling about there, and same with the other way as well. So I think it's really important to do that. I think there's around 1,500 different franchises. I could be wrong on my numbers there, but I think it's around 1,500 different franchise networks around. What do you think it is that separates a good franchise from a poor one?
Yeah, it's a bit like any organisation, the culture, the support, again, the feeling that I get when I speak to, whether it be you or whoever it is that I'm speaking to when I first have an interaction with the local guys, and then you get a sense when like I said before, when I'm talking to head office versus when I'm talking to a franchise partner, what's the feeling going on there? But there's a real cultural piece around that. Also being in the game for a while as well, having proven success, testimonials, case studies, etc. I think that's incredibly important as well. So that's what separates, because there are a lot of franchise groups out there, and it's relatively easy to create a franchise group, but you've got to make sure that you've got that support, that there's processes, that there's operations manuals, that all that I need to know as a potential franchise partner, it's all laid out there for me, and I can see that there are other franchise partners who are having success. And so then it's a case of, well, hey, if they're having success, why can't I go and emulate that as well?
Mm, I think as well, it's probably might be an obvious one, but I feel like a lot of the time it comes down to this, and how driven the franchise is by that. Is money the number one thing? And I think that if it is, it tends to, and they become addicted to that. It tends to quite often a lot of the other values that can build that franchise or even build that business can tend to drop off. And I think that the longer that I've sort of been in business, the more I've realised that it's actually more of an insignificant factor. Obviously, money is like oxygen, and it's very important. You can't do business without it, so I don't want to discount that money is not an important part of that. But I think if you're a slave to it, or you're solely driven by it, I think it really has the ability to do a lot of damage to a lot of organizations. And I think that instead being about creating value and knowing that as a byproduct of that value, that money will follow. I think personally, I feel like that's a much healthier um, set up for success. And I feel like the older I've sort of gotten, the more I think that rings true. And it's rare, but I think it's definitely out there. And there's plenty of franchises that are doing it in that mindset, and they're seeing the success because of that. But it's very hard for a lot of people and a lot of organizations not to be driven by the almighty dollar. But yeah, it's an interesting one, I think.
So for example, a couple of examples. So one is, from an employment point of view. So when you look at why is it that people leave a job, it's not money. It's not money. That's not the now. Money's there, right? So money sits around number 5 or 6. So, like you said, money's important. It makes the world go round. It provides a lifestyle. Am I being recognised? Am I being trained and supported? Am I being valued? Do I have potential to grow? As humans, one of the most powerful things is that ability to grow. Rather than just exist and just sort of go through life, it's like I want to grow and I want to experience things. So there's a whole range of reasons why I would stay or leave an organisation. I'm referring to a corporate type organisation, but it applies the exact same here from a franchise, group point of view. The other is I see this in sports a lot. So people, amazing sporting stars, will leave a team that's having success with all the salary cap, and they have success. They've got to go to another team, and they'll go to another team, and they'll get heaps and heaps of money, and that team will finish down the bottom of the ladder. And that individual, whilst they've got heaps and heaps and heaps of money, they'll be incredibly hollow and unfulfilled. And so it aligns back to what you're saying around being in an organisation where you feel supported, you're part of the team, you're trained, etc., and it inspires you to bound out of bed. You want to go to your business, you want to do well, and like you said, the success becomes a byproduct of that.
You're in the unique position where you get to see a lot of different businesses, and you get to see them from the back end, and you get to speak with the business owners and all the rest of it. What's the most common pitfalls that you see businesses going into? What's the thing that trips them up the most common?
So working in the business, not on it. So spending all of their time working in the business. And I accept that there are, it depends on the business model. There are times when you have to do that. But you also have to spend some time working on your business. And so if I bring this back to this conversation, then we talked before around you've got to do some local area marketing. So don't just go and sit there and wait for the leads. Like, work on your business. Go and join a network community. Go and introduce yourself to other businesses. Go and do some letterbox drops. Go to the local school. Like, do things locally where I'm working on my business. We talked before about understanding your numbers. Understand what's going on in your business. Where is my revenue coming from? What's going on from an expenses point of view? Where am I spending too much money? Where am I not spending enough money? That's on your business as opposed to the in the business stuff. It's incredibly important, but that's a big area where people get tripped up. The other is around not creating enough awareness for their business. So again, if I came in as a franchise partner for the local guys, one of the great things is that you're out there creating a lot of awareness for me. But a lot of other businesses don't create a lot of awareness. And if you don't create a lot of awareness, then you're trying to sell a secret and it doesn't work. So you've got to get out there and create awareness. And I'll give you plenty of examples where franchise partners, they've got their uniforms on and their van or their ute is signed up. And because they're out there in the community with all this signage and whatnot, awareness and people will gravitate. No, you do such and such. And, can you come and look at my place or my sister's blah, 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 whatever it might be. It's about constantly look at how do I go and, create that awareness. So, spend some time on your business. Always got to be in, but spend some time on, but then also look to create awareness. And then just some mindset things, Jared, that we talked about before, grit, tenacity, perseverance, keep going, have the courage to, make mistakes. And I see this a lot particularly from a social media point of view. So I know that you guys take care of the social media for the organisation, but other businesses, getting people to doing these things, right? Putting yourself out there, putting yourself on video on social media, publicly speaking at network meetings. A lot of business people really struggle with those things. But again, for me, it's about my goal is way bigger than my fear. And, I have all sorts of fears, but my goal is too important to me, and I'm so committed to that goal, and I'm going to do whatever I can to push my way through it. And then the other thing is that the more you do of something, the easier it becomes. So I used to be petrified to speak publicly. And I'm going back a while, but I used to be petrified to speak publicly. Well, I do it all the time now. I do it, do it in front of hundreds and hundreds of people. Social media, I used to be petrified to do a video on social media. In fact, I've still got my very first video sitting there from 2017 when I was still an employee and looking to get out, but I just do it all the time. I've challenged myself, and you improve. I used to struggle with a whole range of things around, business, but I just constantly challenge myself to, be better today than I was yesterday.
Yep. Yep. Sure. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's just taking that first step, really. I think whether it's, I know a big challenge that we see with our franchise partners sometimes is, and you just spoke about it, is working on the business rather than in the business. And it might be, well, why would I spend the energy going out and doing that local area marketing because I'm not getting paid for that? And, where if I go off and do this particular job or whatever, I get paid for it. And it's that delayed gratification, and it's waiting to go, well, you will get paid for it. And it's, as you say, any type of marketing, whether it's social media or what we're doing right now or anything like that, it's important to, I think, change the mindset a bit and not have it where you're just concerned about, all right, an hour's worth of work for an hour's pay, and it's a completely different mindset as a business owner.
Well, and that's an employee mindset, isn't it? So it's that hourly rate mindset. So I'm going to give you an hour of my time, and in return, you're going to give me whatever my hourly rate is. And I would argue that it's you have far greater success. It's far more sustainable by spending time on doing the things that will build your business and create it and set it up for success. If I think about back when I first started, had very few clients but plenty of time, so I spent my time letting as many people know about me and what I did. I didn't get paid for that, but I knew that by doing that and putting in the groundwork, we're constantly doing things on social media. We're constantly, going to network meetings. I'm constantly, standing up and speaking publicly, because, and some of those things I get paid for and some of them I don't. As in the speaking, I don't get paid for social media, but it's a case of I do it because I'm constantly focusing on broadening exposure of who I am, because I know that it will have medium to long term success for my business.
Yep. Yep. No, absolutely. I was just talking, I had a podcast last week with Corey, one of our pest control franchise partners, and we've got an amazing mindset. And we had a review come through from him where he rocked up early to one of his jobs. The homeowner was mowing a lawn. He got out there and assisted her and finishing up mowing the lawn. He's got a rave review from her. He's since done both neighbours on each side because now he's got a screaming advocate for Corey out there. And you just, I guess we've been doing this for long enough now where you see those types of people at the early beginning of their journey and you just sit back and you think, wait a year, wait 2 years, wait 5 years, because that has a compound effect. And before you know it, it's just growing into this big thing. And I think that's that compound effect is what you're talking about. It's having that process of being that sort of person.
Yeah, it's about so what you've just described there with Corey, and well done to Corey, is memorable moments. Like a memorable moment. Like he could have easily rocked up and just done the service that he was there to do, collected his money, and just moved on to the next job. But he created a memorable moment, and that client or customer was impacted. Right? It's about how you make me feel. And now all of a sudden, then she's having a barbecue with the neighbours and whatnot, and talking about, oh my gosh, this amazing guy from the local guys, and this Corey fellow, and like you said, and it's all of these. I call them the one percenters. So it's just all these little one percenters and it's about doing without expectations. So there's a number of universal laws around this, but one specifically is that law of reciprocity. Give is gain. And so I'm out there, I'm creating a memorable moment, I'm helping someone, I'm going above and beyond what I'm here to do, and I'm doing it without expectation. I'm doing it because I'm a good human and I want to help that particular person out. But the universe has an uncanny way of getting that to cycle back around. Because you've gone above and beyond and you've made someone feel incredibly important, incredibly special, and created a wonderful, memorable moment.
Yeah, we've got a saying that we say here in the support centre for our franchise partners, and it's leave them better than you found them. And it's however long they're with the local guys and whatever they end up doing, but our goal is for every franchise partner that comes on is that they exit and they move on in a better position than where we found them. So I think that speaks very much to what you're sort of saying.
Absolutely, and you talk about the culture of an organisation. If that's what you're talking about at head office, that just permeates through, everything that it is that you do. So that's amazing.
Yep. Okay. One last tip that I wanted to maybe hit you up for, if possible, is what's the number one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's looking at starting a business or has just started a business, and you can only give them that one piece of advice? What would you want to leave them with on that?
Keep going. And in the sense of we've talked about it, at different parts over this last hour, but keep going, take action. You're not going to have instantaneous success. You use the words delayed gratification. Business is not meant to be easy. It's about keep going and just keep following that process. And the thing that I love about the local guys is you've got a well laid out process, and my job is just to follow it, but keep going. I use the example of the property manager. They're probably using someone else in your particular service, might be pest control or whatever. They're already using someone. So, but it's about keep going, because here's the thing, Jared, the moment that you stop, it's never going to happen. So you keep going and you increase your probability of success.
Yep. Perfect. No worries. Thanks very much for that. So if someone wanted to use your services, Tony, what's the best way they can get in contact with yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is tonymeredithcoaching.com.au. We're across all of the social media platforms, Tony Meredith Coaching, or send us an email to admin@tonymeredithcoaching.com.au, and we'll come back to them very quickly.
Amazing. All right. Thanks so much for spending some time with us, Tony, and passing on some of your wisdom. I've loved our sessions, and you're a very grounded person, and I think that's very much assisted us in our growth as a franchise, and it's been a really important part to us. So thank you for all of your support.
My absolute pleasure, Jared, and congratulations to you and to the team on all of your success to date. I know we've got some big plans to go. We won't share all those just now, but congratulations on all the success that you've all had. And thank you for today, for the last hour. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. We don't normally get to talk like this in our sessions, so the roles have been reversed. Normally it's me asking you the question. So I've
enjoyed it.
Really enjoyed it. Getting even.
I know. No worries. Thank you so much, Tony.
Very good.
Cheers.
Thank you, mate. Bye, mate.
Thanks.